Today, the focus is on whether hardware identifiers are personal data, especially the IMEI number. But before we start, let us look at what makes up personal data. With the introduction of the GDPR in 2016, data protection has become a hot topic in board discussions and inside both legal and tech teams. The focus of organizational efforts around data protection is personal data and its protection. Under the EU GDPR, there are key elements in the definition of personal data. Personal data is any information relating to an identified or identifiable natural person known as the data subject, who can be identified directly or indirectly. Article 4 of the GDPR provides some examples of personal data. It states that personal data could be an identifier, such as a name, an identification number, location data, an online identifier, or one or more factors specific to the physical, psychological, genetic, mental, economic, cultural, or social identity of that natural person. Based on the definition of personal data and the examples stated in the GDPR, it may easily be inferred that technical information relating to hardware constitutes personal data. In fact, this is confirmed in case law. For example, in the 2014 Patrick Breyer versus Bundesrepublik Deutschland, it was ruled that a dynamic temporary IP address is personal data. Hardware identifiers refer to technical information which could take the form of numeric, alphanumeric, or alphabetic codes and which are used to uniquely identify a device or a batch of devices, alone or within a network. Examples of hardware identifiers include the serial number, the IMEI number, the model number, the MAC address, and so on and so forth. Let us distinguish between serial and model numbers. The model number is fairly generic. It's used to identify what type of device you have. It's similar to a part number and applies to devices that share something in common such as features, components, or release year. While the model number can be seen as an identifier, it is not unique to a specific piece of hardware. Your local supermarket will sell hundreds of phones that all have the same model number. A serial number, however, is unique. It's used to identify which specific device you have. It's assigned incrementally and sequentially by a manufacturer on the assembly line. It helps manufacturers manage production and inventory, but also helps identify a particular device. Devices could take any form: a phone, a television, a tablet, or audio-video equipment. The IMEI, International Mobile Equipment Identity, uniquely identifies a mobile communication device. That is, no two mobile devices have the same IMEI. In that sense, it's an identifier. Taking into account the elements of personal data and what the IMEI number is, it becomes personal data as soon as it is associated with a person. Take a smartphone just rolling off the production line, for instance. It gets printed with a company logo and the model number, a chip is programmed, and a sticker appended. Now it has its own IMEI number. This helps the manufacturer inventory, track, communicate with, and mark the device for being transported and handed down the retail network. Once the retailer takes the buyer's payment information, a link is created between that particular device and that particular buyer. That is, the IMEI becomes associated with a data subject. Of course, if the buyer is not a person but an organization like an employer, that association will not take place until the employer assigns that specific phone to the employee that will be using it. The IMEI number of a smartphone is not regarded as personal data until it is purchased or assigned to a user. Once the purchaser activates the phone or inserts a SIM card, the IMEI naturally becomes associated with the network identification and the user account, for instance, AppleID or Google account. Adding these accounts further associates the IMEI to the username, email address, passwords, biometrics, such as when opting for Face ID unlock or fingerprint when using AppleID. Should the IMEI number not have previously been associated somewhere with the user, as it would have on the purchase of a SIM card, for instance, connecting accounts to the phone completes the conversion of the IMEI into personal data. At this point, the individual elements of the definition of personal data become important. Since personal data refers to information relating to an identified or identifiable person from direct or indirect inference, when various data points are capable of identifying a person, any data being combined with such data point in turn becomes personal data. Car rentals and paired devices. Section 171 and 172 of the EDPB guideline on processing personal data in the context of connected vehicles and mobility-related applications illustrates that when a person's smartphone is paired with the dashboard of a rental car while using Bluetooth or USB connections, a variety of data is processed by the rental car. These might include phone identifiers, voice and data communications, contact lists, web browsing data, calendar schedules, music choices, radio and video content, which are all personal information revealing behavior and interests, which triggers, more often than not, the processing of special categories of data, including voice biometrics, sexual preferences, religious beliefs, none of which should be processed. As such, they help draw a precise profile of the data subject, a very valuable commodity for organizations who profit from them. Make sure to ask your favorite rental company and check what they say against their privacy notice. Telecommunication. Since IMEIs are also used to lock devices to carriers or blacklist lost or stolen phones, or even track the location of a smartphone in relation to its user, which all relates to a user and can be misused against them, it becomes all the more obvious to consider the IMEI as personal data after the purchase of a phone and its subsequent activation. Law enforcement. Law enforcement agencies routinely use IMEI numbers to track down criminals as well as for digital forensics. But since it can technically be done, consider that it can be done unlawfully as well. Unlawful means without a legal base or legal obligation under national law. For example, the CNIL, the French Data Protection Authority, demanded in late April 2023 that the French Ministry of Economy clean up its unlawful processing of personal data relating to the use of a file not based on any legal text and which does not comply with the French Data Protection Act that implements the GDPR. Employment. Tracking an employee using the IMEI of the phone provided to them triggers data controller obligations of transparency, lawfulness, and accountability. If not done properly, this leads to violations of employment law and data protection law that courts in the EU will likely condemn. Does your handling of hardware identifiers constitute the processing of personal data? When considering whether your business processes personal data in the form of hardware identifiers, a number of factors should be taken into account, such as determining the moment these hardware identifiers became linked to a person and how your organization has access to that data. If you're unsure whether such identifiers constitute personal data, request a more detailed assessment from TechGDPR, who will take your unique business operations into consideration and tailor your compliance solutions. If you found this video valuable, then hit the subscribe button below and share with your network. Thank you for watching.